Hello and welcome to the first episode of our podcast. My name is Nick.
I'm Christian.
We're going to be talking about everything San Jose State athletics, college sports as a whole, or even professional. We're going to see where it takes us. First off, we're both Spear reporters here on campus for the JMC. And, I'm coming out of LA Valley College, Spear, everything sports related. That's what I want to get into in future of life. So this podcast is another avenue of that I'm taking, and ever since then I'm here to provide for the people, for the news of athletics, I guess you can say,
for the fans of SJSU, Spartan fans.
Yeah, there you go.
I'm also a Spear reporter. I'm coming from Santa Rosa Junior College, transferred just like Nick, and I'm doing the same thing. I'm trying to cover the athletics here, and we're going to let you guys get a little insider and also hear our opinions on this show about what goes on here in San Jose State athletics.
Yeah, well, with that, obviously we had a good amount of sports play this weekend, I think.
Mm-hmm.
We had volleyball play in another tournament. Football finished up in Toledo, Ohio, right?
Yeah.
And then we had both soccer teams go at it. I think first, talk about like the big one, football. And I don't know a lot about football, Christian. I'm going to be completely honest. So what you got for me?
Well, San Jose State, they lost in Toledo, Ohio, 21-17. And I would say it was kind of a tale of two halves. Their offense came out hot, came out firing. Chevin Cordero, our quarterback, actually passed the 10,000-yard mark in his college football career in the first quarter. But in the second half, you can kind of see they stuttered. Toledo figured them out a little more. And it was just it just wasn't an ideal outcome for the Spartans, as now they're 1-3 and we have a tough road ahead of us looking at the Mountain West Conference starting this Friday against Air Force. Air Force is a really good team. If we were looking back at Air Force, they just beat Utah State, and at one point in that game they had a lead 29-0. So Air Force, it looks like
29-0. I didn't even know that, actually.
Yeah,
that's actually kind of wild.
Yeah, so it's kind of, they played against Utah State, another Mountain West Conference team, and Utah State kind of did make a little comeback, but Air Force got the win, and so we're looking at it's going to be a tough stretch here for the Spartans football team on the gridiron.
When it comes to facing Utah State, are we going to eventually face them, or is that something that it's going to be in our future at all?
Yeah, Utah State's actually going to be our homecoming game. So that's going to be, I think our next two games I know are against Air Force here at home, and then the week after we're traveling to Idaho to play Boise State, another really tough, really solid opponent in the Mountain West.
And then this is just a completely random question. Isn't Boise State the one with the blue turf field and they're famous for it because they were the first team to ever do that?
Yeah, and they have blue turf. It's it looks like nothing I've ever seen before. And I think I even saw on their social media that they're gonna have this thing where I don't know if it's after they score a touchdown or what, but it goes dark and then all these lights turn blue and it's just flashing and it's just gonna be a blue out there. So that'll be interesting to see if that's something when we see when we go travel there.
Yeah, and then earlier today in our class for the Spear, we had Sky come in, and then did he mention that last year that's where we had our bowl game? No, against it was somewhere out there. I think
it was in Idaho, but I don't know. I'm not sure. I'm not sure if it was at that school or not. I know it was the Idaho Bowl or something like that. But
well, regardless,
yeah.
But when it comes to Cordero, in the preseason he got preseason Player of the Year award,
mm-hmm.
and then with him now reaching the 10,000 mark, and then him eventually even going to play against his old school, Hawaii. What do you think that's going to be like, considering the fact that he's going to have ties to a further opponent, and to even now reach his mark to a school that he didn't even enjoy, and now he's here and just living life pretty much in football.
I think for him it'll be interesting because I believe he's a Hawaii native, so. I think it's always fun to place people, and I'm sure he'll know people from the other teams too, and that's always fun to compete against people me and you both played sports before, and whenever you play against someone who outside of sports,
oh yeah,
it's always kind of a blast, and you kind of can get competitive and trash talk a little bit, but it's all fun, and I'm sure for him it'll be fun to prove himself again and show this is what I can still do.
Yeah. Yeah, touching on that aspect now. In high school, I played baseball. I think I mentioned that to you already.
Mm-hmm.
And then we would always play all these same schools. But back in LA, we played a few schools called Volleyball, Torres, Belmont. Belmont was a big rivalry, so I remember them seeing their faces, and whenever we would beat them like 20-0, that's how bad it was. But yeah, I always remember seeing like all the cool faces and everything, like talking if you get on base or something like that. It's always a cool connection, but at the same time, like now at the college level and everything like that, I'd imagine there's a certain level of competitiveness, like you said. But at the same time, they're D1. They're all trying to get to the next level.
Yeah, exactly.
And then and then now speaking on, like with the teams and everything, like I know that Cordero is like losing players and everything like that, and of course the defense is like struggling a little bit as well to hold opponents, like, especially against USC. But now I think something had happened with the football team, right?
Today, another preseason player, first team player, Justin Lockhart, one of our top wide receivers. The news came official today that shout out to Matt Weiner, Spear beat reporter and editor for the Spear, for the football team. He just he got the scoop today that he's out for the season. Justin Lockhart, he's getting surgery. So Brennan kind of confirmed that he's out for the year. Yeah, it's kind of been something that's been up in the air because like no one's really seen Justin Lockhart around the team for the first 4 games, or on the sidelines or at any practices, and we finally got the answer why he's out. Yeah, it's kind of an unfortunate news because that's just another weapon lost for Chevon Cordero. Yeah, so.
And then and of course with Cordero, like of course he already lost. Who was the player that got drafted last year from San Jose?
Elijah Cooks.
I mean losing him already, and then you said he was Lockhart, right? He said he's a receiver, right?
Mm-hmm.
So like losing someone like that, I would imagine it hurts the program. Considering even then, like our offense just like it feels like they can't get anything going, at least in my eyes, not knowing the sport that much. But I mean against Cal Poly, we were able to put up 53,
mm-hmm.
right?
And a huge part of the Cal Poly game was our run game. Kyrie Wilson had a great game. But yeah, I think if we I've noticed when we get the run going, I mean, it makes the passing game easier. So that's with any football team. Kyrie Robinson, excuse me. Yeah, if we continue to run the ball, I think that's what we're going to have to change to. Just losing Justin Lockhart and losing all those guys. Losing Elijah Cooks to the draft. It definitely changes the way their offense is going to work, and it makes it a little bit more difficult on Cordero. But we'll see how they fare against the Mountain West now that conference is coming up, and hopefully we can see if they can make at least a bowl game or maybe have a chance at winning the conference.
Yeah, and then last game for football was away, right?
Yeah.
Over there in Toledo, Ohio.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of being away, I don't know if you've known, but the volleyball team has actually been away for almost a complete month now.
Oh wow.
They're only coming back next week. They've been participating in plenty of tournaments, starting off with the San Jose State Santa Clara tourney, in which they hosted back at the end of August, essentially. And after that, they competed in the Hornet Invitational, Fairfield Inn and Suites Dunn Campbell Invitational, and then most recently this past week in the USF Challenge. So, I mean, with them being on such a young team, and then as well, like, them just not being able to come back home and just play a game here, it's actually kind of it's struggling for them, because I was actually at that last game at USF, and I was talking to head coach Todd Kress, and he said that like they at one time they even had to sleep in the airport just because of traveling was so hard and everything for them. But then in each tournament they've come out with a 2-1 record, and they haven't lost a tournament yet, and they're actually currently record with a 9-4 with the next game coming up in Vegas. So they're still on the road, which sucks. Yeah. But at the same time, they're coming closer to home. They went as far as the Fairfield Inn tournament, which is all the way in North Carolina. I don't imagine those flights sucked.
Oh, man.
I got family in Jersey, so I know how long those flights are.
East Coast, yeah.
Yeah, but then now that they're finally getting closer to home after Thursday, they're gonna be in San Diego after that, and then finally coming back home next week. So I'd imagine it's almost like a rewarding thing for them. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. Who's been like the top performers this year for our volleyball team?
Top performers, I mean, we can talk both sides of the ball. I mean, offense or defense. On defense, we have senior Gianna Lawson, who's actually kind of been owning the net. She's been all over the net. She comes off the bench, but she comes off in big moments. She currently sits with 69 blocks, 7 solo, 62 assist blocks, with 18 digs. And her defense is her main thing. Like, She coming off the bench, she has 81 kills and 178 attempts, and that's good for a 45.5 percentage attacking rate. But I think that's and coming off the bench, but like with your main job being defense, knowing how to shut these teams down, I think that's a big thing. And on attacking, there's three of them. We got Junior Blair Fleming, currently sitting at the team leading 189 kills in 420 attempts, making her good for a 45 percentage. And then while on the other side of the ball, she's got 39 digs, 6 receives, and 2 solo blocks with 23 block assists. And then even then, like she has a young team behind her as well, in freshman Nayeli Tia, who was a redshirt last year. She didn't see any action last year, but even with that, like this year, she's just been dominant, a hard hitter as well. Coming off with currently sitting at 122 kills and 336 attempts, making her good for 36%. And then while on defense, she's got 115 digs, 18 received, and 3 solo blocks with 18 block assists. But even then, it doesn't stop there with senior as well. I hope I don't butcher this name, but I'm gonna say how her teammates say it. Letty Camalucci. She's got 98 kills and 299 attempts while having 101 digs, 14 receives, 1 solo block, and 21 solo and block assists. And so I think they're all around. They're just a good team, especially to be 9-4 right before conference starts, because with Vegas being their first opponent in conference and then ending all these tournaments in the positive note that they did, they have another shot at going to the Mountain West Championship again.
Yeah, and then I was going to ask, how do you think they're going to fare against the rest of their Mountain West Conference opponents? Like you said, Vegas first, but the rest of the schedule, how do you think they're going to fare in conference?
I mean, if I'm going to be completely honest, I haven't done exactly the most research into their opponents that they've played so far. I've only done little skimming and everything like that. But I mean, they've been playing teams from conferences all over, whether it be the WAC, Big West, or even whatever conferences are in Florida. I feel like that they're going to fare very well against all their Mountain West opponents, just because their adversity and how young they are and how much of a team that they're able to bond with and just know each other, what each other are going to do. I think they're going to fare completely well. If I'm being honest, against Vegas, it's a good chance that they can either sweep them or just take them 3-1, just because of the fact of how good they've been attacking the ball and just how much of an effort and how much they've been fighting through all this resiliency, whether it be traveling or adversity on and off the court.
And then in their 4 losses, do you know what they could have done differently or how they fared against those teams?
I mean, even then, in their losses, they still fared pretty well. I haven't been there for all their losses, to be completely honest, but I've been there for that Santa Clara game that they lost while co-hosting the tournament with Santa Clara, coincidentally, and they got swept that match. They got swept 0-3. They were just struggling on offense at the same time, but their other losses, they haven't been that bad. They lost 3-1 to Sac State. They've also gotten swept to Georgia Southern again, and then to University of San Francisco, they also lost 3-1. Of course, their losses, it's a big margin. They've either gotten swept or they just dropped off. They've only been able to win one set. But same time, their wins have also been very impressive. Sweeping CSUN after going all 5 sets in their first tourney, sweeping Fullerton, almost sweeping Portland. Regardless of their win-loss ratio, I feel like that this team can easily be either get to the championship or win it all, just because of how much adversity that this team has gone through. Todd Kress's first year as head coach, and then he had to bring in all these players as well, because the players from last year disappeared essentially. They hit the transfer portal, but I feel like that this team is either going to see little losses in conference or of course it can go always both ways. So we'll see how it plays out. But I honestly think that they have a good shot at being Mountain West champions.
And you mentioned how all these players left after last season for the transfer portal. Do you want to talk about what Todd Kress has done to change the program here?
Oh yeah, what Todd Kress has done has been insane. Of course, Todd Kress's resume isn't exactly the greatest. Let's be honest. Started off at Fairfield, went over to Florida State, and then ended up at Buffalo, and then he came, and then now he's here, San Jose State, and I remember talking to Gianna Lawson When asking about Crest specifically, she said that like it was her third head coach. I mean, with her as well, started off at Portland and then came to transferred here last year. I think what Crest has done to be able to form and shape this new and young team has been phenomenal. To grab all these players and make them mix well, and become a very competitive team, as we saw last season as well. Of course, it wasn't under Crest, but this team has always been competitive, and what he has done, I think, is very well for the program. And considering the fact that it's his first year and he's able to come in and get a 9-4 record right before conference, it's gonna be an interesting season for Crest. And from what I'm seeing right now, I really hope San Jose keeps him, because the girls love him, the media people love him, and Amy the SID love him. He just seems like an all around coach, and he's such a nice guy to talk to. Even then when I went to go visit, not visit, but when I went to go watch the game in San Francisco, he actually recognized me. So I thought that was kind of cool. He's a very recognizable person. He's also very charismatic. He loves talking about his team, and he loves he could just tell he loves the sport all around. And I think it's something that can lead into a very well and very competitive team that can go all the way.
Yeah. And speaking of another women's team here on campus that's very competitive and has a chance of going all the way in the Mountain West, the women's soccer team. They've been playing really well this year so far. Their record at home overall, is 2-3-3. So not the best preseason record, but they also had a really tough preseason. 2 wins, 3 losses, 3 ties, and probably their most impressive win. Was, in my opinion, was our win versus Southern Utah 4-0. There was 3 goals in the first half. It was just a complete game.
When it comes to the women's soccer team, I feel like, and this isn't just me knowing a little bit of soccer, I feel like, of course, draws suck. Let's be honest now, draws aren't exactly the greatest thing, but at the same time, you're holding your opponent as well. Of course, you can say, oh, they got a draw and everything, but at the end of the day, you're able to hold your opponent. The opponent's able to hold you. Like I said, it's a draw. You're just in my view, you're just a either equal team or just one team just got the best of you and you just couldn't do anything. But have that like you asked me about volleyball, have there been any star players so far on the women's soccer team?
Yes, definitely. One of the most important parts about soccer is scoring goals, and the top goal scorer for the team has been Bella Flocchini. She's started in the 8 games played. She plays the majority of the minutes, I think more than any of the other girls. And she leads the team with 5 goals throughout the season so far. And that includes 8 shots on goals, which is also she leads, and 17 shots in general. So yeah, she's been producing the most. But that's not to discredit anybody else. Taylor Phillips actually against that Southern Utah game where she also had 2 goals, which she has 3 on the season. And she told me that, she scored in the first game of the year against Santa Clara, but then she wasn't able to get, her feet back, is what she said, until that Southern Utah match where she and Bella both scored 2 goals each. And, and now they're kind of rolling. In their most recent game, it was a draw against Cal Baptist, which I heard leading up into that game before, it was going to be a really tough match. They're a really good program down there in Cal Baptist. And yeah, so Bella Flocchini, Taylor Phillips has been leading, but also, and then on the goalkeeping side, Benta Pernod, she's been having a great season again, a sophomore, so really young. She's actually leading the team with 39 saves, and she's played 7 out of the 8 games. And then when she did miss a game, our other goalkeeper, Shayla Shugai, stepped in, and she also put up a clean sheet with 5 saves that day against Southern Utah when Benta did not play. But yeah, so honestly, we're looking great, and it's good to look ahead to our first match in the Mountain West Conference, which is this Thursday against New Mexico, and it's also going to be the 2022 Mountain West Championship celebration. And honestly, I think the Spartans, they looked great in preseason, although their record doesn't look like the best. I think they had a really tough opponent, and honestly, going into Mountain West play, we could look at a possible repeat this year just because this team is pretty complete. Got a lot of some solid goal scorers and some good goalie play and good defense in general. And I noticed every game, something that the players kept reiterating to me is every game they felt like they were playing more and more as a one solid group. So that chemistry is really important, and I'm glad that they've been able to keep building that up throughout the year, and hopefully it can continue to build up in this Mountain West conference play.
Yeah, and you mentioned that we're going to be starting our conference play. Looking ahead of the schedule, of course, we can only speculate so much. But who do you think is going to be the toughest opponent? Like have there been like any like former opponents or like anyone new that we're going to be facing that you think is going to be like really tough against us?
I mean, if you look at last year's conference, we fared pretty well. We were 6-3-2 in the Mountain West. It was an interesting year. Obviously, we won our Mountain West Conference championship, so that was great. And if we look at the Mountain West tournament, two teams that gave us a lot of trouble were New Mexico and Wyoming at that end tournament. It was both games ended in a 0-0 shootout. I mean a 0-0 tie, but we won both of those games in a shootout. For New Mexico, it was 4-2, and Wyoming 6-5. So both really tightly contested games. I mean, it took shootouts to decide the winner of Mountain West. So that kind of tells you everything you need to know about those two programs.
Excuse me, sir. They're called penalties, not shootouts. Get it right, sir. Come on.
My bad. Penalty shootouts. Yeah. Sorry. But yeah, we won 6-5 in penalty kicks to Wyoming. Those games were all played in Albuquerque, New Mexico, and we also played against Colorado College in the Mountain West tournament as well. So they made it last year, so I would believe that they'd be good again this year. We beat them 1-0, 1-0.
Yeah, and of course, with all eyes on us, do you like with what both of us know? Like, do you think we can win the championship again? And hang on, I kind of want both of us to answer at the same time, just so we can say, all right, ready? 3, 2, 1, yes. All right, cool. All right, we're on the same page. Yeah. And then, of course, like even then with a young team that we have, I think, right? Like look at one of them; they are pretty young. Yeah. And then I believe like our star goalkeeper is she still injured? I forgot her name.
Benta Perno.
Is that her name?
Yeah,
I forgot her name.
I honestly don't know if I'm butchering her or not. I know the last name's Perno.
Probably are. I mean, we both probably butchered names already, but that's fine.
The thing about her too is her freshman year, she was kind of came on the scene. She was freshman goalkeeper of the year for Mountain West. Really good season, but she did have an injury towards the end of the year, I believe. Another thing that's interesting about her too is she's an international student. I believe she's from the Netherlands. Yeah, Netherlands. Yeah, she is from Gielen, Netherlands. That's her hometown name.
Oh my God, you know what I've always wondered about college athletics, and especially like here at San Jose. Obviously, like now that we're reporting for them and everything, I've always wondered how these coaches like find like these players like from all over the world. Because our water polo team, they're from like Croatia, like a lot of countries from England, and then our soccer team too. Like of course like there are a lot of locals. I remember seeing like one from Salinas, a few from other cities in California. But then I remember seeing, I know there's one player from, I think it's Korea, not to get it wrong, I think for the men's soccer team. Yeah. I've always wondered how these players get in contact with San Jose.
Yeah, I mean, I think credit to the recruiters for these teams.
Oh yeah, definitely.
I mean, they do a lot of work and that's a tough job, even just looking at people in California.
Yeah, exactly. Like, of course, like max preps can only take you so long because like stats can only tell you and how a player is. Yeah. But I think the fact that like the recruiting staff for this women's soccer team to like possibly do it all over again and recruit enough teams and enough women to participate in this team and like possibly repeat again. I think they have a good chance of success. Mm-hmm. But now to the flip side of the men's, I believe they played Santa Clara yesterday, right?
Yeah, and actually speaking of international players, I'm probably going to get this wrong, but Gaku Nishimura.
Coming from Yokohama, Japan.
Yeah, he actually had a great game yesterday, and he scored his first 2 goals.
His first 2? Was it really?
Of his career.
And he's been starting like in most of these games, right now?
Yeah, he wears number 6 for the Spartans. Yeah, and his first 2 goals were both on penalty kicks.
That's cool. And yeah. But I think you were at the game. Like, did it seem like a really physical game, or were those those penalties just come from like a freak accident?
Yeah, I don't think they were really. It wasn't too physical a game. I think they were just kind of mistakes that Santa Clara made. Santa Clara, they were a little sloppy, I think, and yeah. So I would say those 2 penalties, and then they chose him obviously to kick him, and he.
He did his job.
Yeah, he did his job. His first goal, he deceived the goalie. He had the goalie going the exact opposite way. the goalie went to the left corner and he kicked it in the. Excuse me, he got the goalie going to the right corner and he kicked it in the left corner.
I think like because of course you can only just you're at the end of the day as a goalie you're guessing, and so I feel like more than half the time you're like the goalie either guesses right or the shooter just misses completely.
Yeah.
So I feel like for this what grade is he in?
He is a sophomore.
So for this sophomore to like get into the head of a goalie who's probably let's be honest now, it's probably a senior or a junior.
Yeah, he's older.
Yeah, like it's a little bit older. I feel like that like this kid is something, especially if he can deceive. And I feel like if he gets more time, like on the ball wise and like more speed, because I've seen him once. He seems like a pretty speedy like attacker, or is he a midfielder?
Midfielder.
Oh yeah, there you go. Like he can just run the ball, whether it be on offense or defense.
Yeah.
And I mean, if a team can get all guys like that, I mean, I feel like that just sets up a team for success.
Yeah, definitely. And I think after the first goal, too, I noticed the Santa Clara defense, they were kind of flustered and they were huddling up and they were kind of yelling at each other. So San Jose kind of had them like on their toes,
just shooken up. Damn.
Yeah.
All right, well, we obviously mentioned Nishimura, not to butcher his name, but was there anyone else who obviously the game ended 3-1, so who else like had scored that other goal for them?
Yeah, his name was Angel Niguez, and he tallied his third goal, which is team leading this season. And also Anthony Guzman and Ricardo Scarafia earned their assists on the Iniguez goal. And yeah, overall the Spartans played really good against Santa Clara. It's kind of like a little rivalry, not as intense as the rivalry versus Stanford was, although Santa Clara is just down the road.
That Stanford game was insane.
Mm-hmm. And that Stanford game had a little extra pizzazz, I guess, on it from the student section behind the goal. If you want to talk about who was behind those goals.
Oh my God! Just all those students and then everyone else behind there just heckling the Stanford goalie the entire time. And then even then, the fans getting into it. I think me as a sports fan, and of course like as a reporter, I love seeing that when like a school like actually like thrives for that and actually going for it, especially like at a big game like that, as much of a rivalry as it is, with Stanford down the road, like you said, with Santa Clara as well. And I think that game was just honestly probably the best that I've seen so far.
Yeah, definitely.
Just because of the fact that like there were I don't even know how many yellows were thrown around.
Yeah, there was a couple reds, I think.
I think maybe like one or two reds, and then but even then, just because of how physical that game was, like they were just both teams were just relentless, and of course it ended up with us losing. Yeah. But I think at the end of the day, like if you can put up a fight against a school like that, I believe it was they're number 4 ranked nationally
at the time. Yeah.
Yeah, and so I think to put up a fight like that against that school as well, of course, it's always an honor, and it's always cool to see small team like this, San Jose State, being able to compete with a powerhouse like that. I think it was cool to see regardless.
Definitely.
And of course, and now looking ahead at who they got up next, do you think that that we have a chance in the WAC conference to do you see any opponents that can provide them like with a lot of struggle or anything like that?
Let's see. Our next match is against Sacramento State, and honestly, so far we have the I believe that's the same record as our women's soccer team, 2-2-3, right?
Yeah. Well, that is a crazy coincidence.
So through our before conference started, 2-2-3. Oh, actually, excuse me, Santa Clara is a Western Athletic Conference team. My bad. So we are 2-2-3 though. Either way, and honestly, I mean the way our men's team has been playing. They've played some pretty tough opponents as well, going back to that Stanford game. I mean, the thing about Stanford was I noticed is that even though Stanford was way more stronger, more physically acclimated, San Jose was still competing, and you could see they never gave up. Like if I were to think about last night's game, I can kind of tell Santa Clara when they were down, they were kind of giving up, and they were kind of just getting frustrated and letting it get to them. But what I noticed with San Jose was when they played a tougher opponent like Stanford, is that they never gave up, even though they lost 2-0 and couldn't score a goal. They kept trying, and it was a really physical game. But you could tell there was a lot of intensity to it. It wasn't frustration; it was intense. Like we want to beat Stanford. And that's something I think that team can carry with them.
That's easily always the best thing, and like the easily like if a team can do that, like, and stay motivated throughout an entire, like, match or a game even, like, no matter what sport it is, even if you're down, I honestly think your team can turn it around, like, easily.
Mm-hmm.
Like, just hit the flip. Of course, we still lost against Stanford, but at the end of the day, like we both mentioned earlier, being able to put up a fight against a school like that, it's insane. Okay, that was that was a little spooky. We heard a little like screaming or like a little like what sounded like a fire alarm outside outside of our little box of a recording studio. But you know what? That is fine. We are working through the kinks. But you know, speaking of a team that put up and a surprising number in my opinion. Now switching from San Jose State to just more broader sense, Colorado State versus Colorado. That game was interesting, wild to say the least.
Yeah, I think wild is a great way to describe that game. Honestly, I thought it was going to be a blowout. I thought Colorado.
So did
Buffaloes.
I honestly thought Colorado was just going to destroy them.
Yeah, I mean, leading into the week, the comment that Colorado State's head coach made about not wearing sunglasses and hats to interviews around adults.
Yeah, I mean, and then of course Coach Sanders, or Coach Prime.
Yeah.
How he responded it, how he took it as like his mama didn't raise him right and everything like that.
Mm-hmm.
But then I don't know if you saw it, but the clip right before the game where his mom helped hype up the team.
Yeah.
I thought that was the coolest thing in the world to have his mom there and like the one that was made the comment towards essentially. I thought that was such a cool thing. And of course, I'm not going to repeat what she said. That clip is out there. You guys can go look. But to me, it is one of the most like essential things to a team, especially if you can hype up a team like that. And especially with this game, in my opinion, kind of created a rivalry.
Yeah. And I think it just, anytime you're playing someone in-state, it always is more fun, I would say, local. And
that can
you could
easily be said.
See how personal it was for both teams. Both teams really wanted to hurt each other. Speaking of hurting each other.
Yeah, oof. I mean, of course, obviously, Travis Hunter, he was sent to the hospital by halftime, essentially. I think it was by defense. I had it pulled up right here.
I know he's number 11.
It was their defensive back.
Yeah.
It was their defensive back who gave him a late hit. His name is Henry Blackburn.
Mm-hmm.
And it was such a late play and everything like that. But I mean, I think that just speaks wonders on like how hard hitting that game really is. But at the same time, it also speaks wonders on how soft, in my opinion, NCAA is, just because it's a late hit. It's football. You can't argue that. But at the same time, you have to look back at the history. And, of course, you can't judge a in-game decision based off of history. But, of course, like now it's being reported that him and his family are receiving death threats for what he did to Travis and everything like that. And, honestly, to me, like as my personal opinion as a sports fan and everything, I always think that's always uncalled for.
Yeah.
Of course, let what happens on the field happen on the field. Mm-hmm. Of course, what he did was wrong. Like let's not condone that. But at the same time, I think it's just death threats is a little too far, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. I think people forget he's just a college kid. He's a student. He's still young.
We're all kids. We're all going to make dumb decisions one day or another, especially as college kids, like you said. But at the end of the day, when it comes down to hurting people, you can tell he wanted to hurt them.
That's true. That is true. But I don't think it equals death threats.
No, it never does, and it never will. Oh, my God. It just – college sports, it's interesting, especially when it comes to a rivalry like that. Because, I mean, I don't know if you saw as well, even before the game they were getting into it and they had to get separated. Mm-hmm. And I think it was reported that punches were thrown and everything. I remember seeing all the clips and everything of, like, Travis, Shiloh, Shador, like, all getting into it. But that game was just honestly just something that was just uncalled for.
Yeah.
But, and of course, it all started off with the Colorado State coach.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know how exactly. Of course, he could have avoided that by not saying anything.
Yeah, definitely, and I think he could have avoided it too because I think Colorado Buffaloes right now are the most important story in sports.
Easily like the most watched team in the nation.
Yeah,
I honestly think beating out some of these professional teams as of right now. At least.
Sit down, Dallas Cowboys. I think Colorado Buffaloes are America's team.
Jesus.
Like, everybody is watching them. I feel like everybody, even if you live across the country and you've never been to Colorado in your life, you're kind of rooting for them. I mean, it's a cool story. You see Deion Sanders with his kid being the main quarterback and his other kid being safety, I believe.
Something on defense.
I think it was a
couldn't tell you
safety.
for the
He
life
got
of me.
he got a pick that game too, and
Oh yeah, that pick six. And then I remember seeing after the game, post game interview. Sorry, that like he said like he was just running with them down the sideline, and I think like of course like I would imagine for him it's hard to separate being a dad and like being a coach, but I think regardless, even if he was just a coach to him and everything like that, like seeing your own son and like obviously your own player do that, and especially in a big game like that with how like obviously with how much they were losing by. I forgot if he did that while they were down or like to tie the game. I forgot.
I don't remember.
But regardless, like that moment in the game was honestly must have been like he's let's be honest now. Coach Sanders is living on cloud nine right now.
Yeah. I mean, speaking of living on cloud nine, I mean he had the team lockout with Lil Wayne leading the group, and then also The Rock was there. I saw The Rock pregame. Like they're a sensation. Like they're the biggest show right now in college sports, probably in all the sports in America here. Like it's a vibe. Like
yeah, of course. And then speaking of cloud nine, of course, San Jose State can only, of course, let's be honest now, like we can only dream of it. And of course, I want these teams to win.
Yeah.
Like I've never been like so like motivated for a team to win up until I got to college, and like I want to see this team win. But cloud nine, last year the baseball team, Charles, I hope I don't say his, Charles, if you're listening to this, I hope I don't butcher your name, Charles McAdoo, whatever, however you say his name. I'm sorry, I'll get it right one day. He got drafted, playing with the Pirates as well. And, on that professional side, I remember seeing one game, he went 6 for 6 with 2 homers, and I think it was like 6 or 7 RBIs. Like, the fact that, like, a kid like that coming out of San Jose State to only one get drafted, to be the only one drafted out of the school this year's draft, I think it's just phenomenal to have, like, a little school like ours, be represented at that high level. And I think it speaks for words on, like, that this team and that this program can build players like that. And of course, we have him, of course, and especially with our baseball team that has never like really seen a College World Series. Of course, I don't know the history of that much. I'm gonna be honest, but I think for him to see that, like especially like as most of recently of just this year, they almost they had a shot, but they struggled against Fullerton and I think it was Texas as well. But like to have that opportunity for a guy like that coming out of a small school, he is the definition of living on cloud nine.
Yeah, and I think that kind of speaks to the direction that San Jose State athletics is going in.
Oh yeah, easily.
I think this is just the start of our programs getting better and better, and hopefully sending more people off to the pros. Like even in football this year, we had a junior Fajoko drafted from the Dallas Cowboys. Picked him up in the 4th round, picked 129. And that just kind of speaks in general. Like, and there's also a wide receiver for the Jags, Elijah Cooks. He was an undrafted free agent, but he did make the team. He's on the roster. He hasn't had any stats yet. Neither of them have. But still, it kind of shows what our program could be.
A team like the Jags won't have any stats. Let's be honest now. They are something.
Yeah.
But but I think regardless, I think for a smart school to like finally be upping their athletics. I mean, we recently had the athletic building over there down there like recently built. Like they're finally like putting like a lot of money and a lot of effort into building these programs, and I think that says wonders for San Jose State, especially for the small city that it's in. You drive down the streets, like you still see those San Jose State banners, of course, like advertising the alumni and like when the school was founded and all that, blah blah blah. But at the same time, to like have like the only real like athletics around here, of course you have the San Francisco like Giant, the SoCal Giants team, I think it's called. I forgot what.
San Jose Giants.
There you go.
Yeah.
How can I forget that team? But to have like a team and like represent your little city, especially it being a college with how big college sports get, I think that says wonders. And even then, talking about like community wise, I think it was the first game against Oregon State. Like, of course we lost that game. But we had a sold-out crowd, over 21,000 people there in little CEFCU stadium.
Yeah, nationally televised on CBS as well.
Yeah, and earlier today we had Sky, the sports information director for San Jose State football. He came in and he said that was the most media that San Jose State has ever seen. And of course, can't really blame them. It's a small school like this, small stadium. And it being aired like televised, like obviously on television and everything, I think it just says that like this school is going somewhere eventually with these athletics.
Speaking of other sports in the county, we also have a professional football team here in Santa Clara, but they claim the city of San Francisco.
Is it Santa Clara?
Yeah,
Levi Stadium in Santa Clara?
Yeah, it's like 15 minutes away from our campus. Yeah, so they claim, of course, that's a whole nother topic, but they claim the city of San Francisco. But
I'm gonna be completely honest, I didn't know that. Obviously, coming from LA, like I always thought San Francisco 49ers. I honestly always thought they were in San Francisco.
Yeah,
up until I took a drive up to San Francisco the other day, and I saw Levi Stadium. I was like, oh, they play all the way out here.
yeah,
that was crazy.
Yeah,
That was crazy to me at least. Yeah, because my teams, the Rams in Inglewood. Even then, like that's still LA. I would say that's the most LA you're gonna get.
Yeah,
and then,
definitely.
And then what's the other Chargers, right?
Yeah, Chargers. They share the stadium.
Yeah, they whatever wherever they play. I don't even know anymore.
Speaking of Inglewood, where SoFi Stadium is, San Francisco 49ers were just there. And if anybody saw clips from that game in the stands, it was pretty red. 49ers fans definitely invaded LA, in my opinion.
Hey man, I'm gonna just say LA also came out to pull through, right? We had that Born X Rays drop. In my opinion, I'm a big fan of. I mean, right now I'm wearing one of those shirts.
Yeah.
To see all the blue like that, like everything come out, and then I would say, of course, it's a rivalry. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
People are probably people would claim to be it not be, but I think it was. I mean, the 49ers fan yourself. What do you think?
It's definitely a rivalry, and I think it even goes to the coachings, both head coaches. Sean McVay used to be an assistant to Kyle Shanahan when Kyle Shanahan was a offensive coordinator back in Washington, now the Commanders. So there's like a connection there. They both run similar offenses. They kind of know each other's teams. And no matter how much more stacked one of the teams is compared to the others, I felt like these past years when these two coaches have been head coaches for each respective club, they're always a battle. Like, going into it. Like this year, people were saying Rams are probably going to be maybe not that good, probably towards the bottom of our conference. But it was a competitive game, and the Rams led at one point in the first half, and of course the Niners came back. I think they just kind of have more weapons, and Rams obviously missing Cooper Kupp. But that doesn't mean the Rams didn't have people who stepped up from rookie Puka Nacua. Sorry, Pookie. Maybe that's his nickname or something. I don't know.
Absolutely butchered his
name. My bad. Puka Nacua was tearing up the Niners defense, and I think that's partially he is a solid player, and I think another part of it too is Sean McVay's offense. Like, I mean, he knows he's familiar with what Kyle Shanahan runs on offense as well. Like, it's pretty similar, and it was just short passes, a lot of trying to get people to get yards after the catch, and it was a close game, and it definitely felt like a rivalry. It was physical. After plays, you could see players talking to each other. I think Christian McCaffrey said it was just a conversation. But.
Yeah, like what's it called? Like on the McCaffrey play on that one drive.
Yeah, I think it was 51 yards.
Yeah, but then just absolutely stiff armed. I don't know who it was.
Yeah, I think Keller Witherspoon.
Yeah, and then they kind of got into it a little bit.
Yeah.
Apparently, it was just a normal conversation, but it didn't look like it.
No, I think I heard a few cuss words coming out from McCaffrey's mouth.
Easily, but I mean, at the same time. A rivalry like that almost feels like to me like a big brother little brother type thing.
Yeah.
But I mean, at the end of the day, I mean I'm not a big football fan, but now coming to the Bay, I'm gonna be honest. Like, I've been rooting for my LA teams a lot more now, especially the Dodgers. But when it comes to football,
you're in enemy territory.
Yeah, tell me about it. But yeah, when it comes to the Rams, I've never really been into it. But we won the Super Bowl. What was it, 21?
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember. I work at Dick's Sporting Goods. I remember when they won it, we had to stay open till like 11, just to
selling
just selling shirts. Oh my God, what a mess. But yeah. But speaking of other LA teams and me being in enemy territory, the Dodgers recently got division champs. How does that feel for you as a Giants fan?
It's really, as a Giants fan, I don't care. But it's been, what is it, 10 out of 11 years or something like that?
10 out of 11, yeah.
And who was the other team that got that one? The San Francisco Giants, baby. But no, it's kind of like an expected thing at this point. The Dodgers are just, I don't like them, but the Dodgers are just the Dodgers, and it's just kind of, we've gotten used to them winning the division. So it's more or less like, let's hope we can make the playoffs and get them back for that 2021 playoff series and hopefully beat them this time around.
Of course. I mean, we win the division every single year. What do we have to say for it? A choke in the DS or the CS series.
Yeah.
Like at the end of the day, like I feel like, of course, we're a very competitive team, and at the end of the day, you know, with elite pitchers that can hold them down. But I mean, at the end of the day, like a team can only do so much when the job's not finished. At the end of the day, World Series still isn't won. We won the Mickey Mouse 2020 World Series, which in reality, me as a Dodgers fan, doesn't count. You know, it was only a 60-game season, 80-game season, something like that.
Something, yeah.
But yeah, I just feel like as if it's gonna be an interesting postseason, like all around. The Braves having 4 players with over 30 home runs. And then the American League East being as the close race as it is.
Yeah, who would have thought the Orioles would be in that mix, you know?
But even then, like the Orioles have such a young team. Like they're able to draft so many good guys and develop their players now. They recently called up one of their players. I forgot his name, but apparently he was the, like top 10 of their prospects in their farm system, and then now to like in a race with the Astros. What other teams are there in the AL East? I forgot.
We got
the Yankees as well, but at this point,
Blue
the Yankees are just falling apart now.
Yeah.
With all the decisions they've done. Yeah, so it's this postseason. I think for the MLB, it's going to be definitely an interesting one to say the least. But I mean, at the end of the day, I'm calling it right now. I think the Braves are going to be back to it, winning it all this year. But that's just me.
Yeah, I mean, I think Atlanta's been the best team this season all year, like from start to finish. I don't think they've like wavered much. I mean, so far as I can remember, they've led the National League with their record as having the best record. So I wouldn't be surprised if the Braves come on top either. But also, you never know. That's the one thing about October baseball. It's a completely different season, in my opinion. It's the postseason, but it's completely different. You never know what goes.
And of course, I honestly really hope the Orioles get something going in the postseason, just because like of course they're an American League team and everything like that, and we're all over here on the West Side and everything. But at the end of the day, to see a team like that just come out of nowhere and have the season that they're doing, to have players like Adley, Cedric, Baltimore's looking up now.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's cool because Baltimore's, you know, I would say in the past 10 years, they haven't been that good of a franchise.
I mean, having a guy like Chris Davis go on that big slump
that
lasted almost a full season.
That was an interesting story. So it's cool to see Baltimore winning, and they do have like a great fan base out there. You can tell they're dedicated and they love baseball, and also a beautiful ballpark. I've never been, but pictures.
Yeah, Oracle Park. No, it's not even Oracle. That's
Camden,
San
Camden
Francisco.
Yards.
My bad, San Francisco fans. Don't come at me. I'm sorry. But yeah, Camden Yards is such a beautiful park. I still remember that one time when the Orioles locked out fans for I forgot what event it was.
There was like
riots completely
there.
silent.
Yeah, that was weird.
But it was such a bliss thing because you could be able to hear the crack of the bat and everything like that. So me as a baseball player, as a baseball fan, I still go back to look at those clips just to hear and like the bliss of it, the players and just enjoying the quiet. I thought that was something cool.
Yeah, it was like a foreshadowing to the pandemic. That was weird seeing a bunch of cardboard cutouts in the stands. That was interesting.
And then just to hear it, nothing but the players.
Yeah.
But
it's interesting.
Yeah.
Provides a new perspective.
Those new perspectives are going to be a long one.
Yeah. All right, well, that's going to be a wrap for our first episode. Thank you for listening.
Yeah, and of course, you know, we're just two college kids trying to figure out journalism life and now podcasting life. So we're going to see how often we get these episodes out. Let's be honest now. But besides that, thank you for listening.
Yeah.
I'll see you next time.